Croeso. Welcome to what's become our annual sit-down with the CEO of the FAW, Noel Mooney. We'll have a look back at what's been an incredible year in 2025 and a look ahead at what's coming up. But of course, there'll be plenty of celebrations off the pitch in 2026 as the FAW turns 150 years old. We'll also have a look at some of the successes on the pitch for both the men's and women's international teams this year. But of course, there's plenty more work than just that going on here at the FAW. We'll also have a look at grassroots football, the domestic game, and the fact that football has now become the biggest participation sport here in Cymru. Let's get to it. Noel, Nadolig Llawen, fantastic to have you back here with us. Another chance to sit down and reflect on what's been an incredible year for the FAW, and what better way to hold it than here in the FAW's new £3 million investment at Hensall. The Wednesday 1876 is where we are at the moment. It must have been a real moment of pride for you to see this finally open.
Yeah, look, we're always trying to improve. You want to give the players and our staff the best experience possible. So to try to make sure we continue going in a world-class direction, this media suite was really important to us. I mean, there's more to it. There's dressing rooms and meeting rooms and different things we've built in the new wing, but this media room is important. And it's not just for the media. It means that when Rian or Craig or any of the managers want to talk to the players and do personal development stuff or show videos, they've got state-of-the-art facilities, which is what they should have nowadays. And we're delighted to be able to provide that world-class environment for our players. Yeah,
it looks incredible in here, I have to say. But we'll discuss the international scene in more detail shortly. But first of all, let's talk a little bit about grassroots football here in Wales. The FAW now are almost 2 years into the strategy for grassroots football called Enhancing Lives Through Football. Where are we with the strategy's aims at the moment?
Yeah, it's a big time for strategy actually here at the FAW, because our overall strategy, Ein Cymru, our Wales, is in its last year. So we're starting the process now of a 10-year plan. So we'll announce that in the summertime. Grassroots is at the heart of everything we do. So the Enhancing Lives plan is central to what we do. I mean, we've hit 20,000 women and girls, for example, and recently we've crossed that mark, which was a big goal of ours. The 120,000 overall players, we're heading in the right direction with that as well. But the Enhancing Lives plan has, like, from a grassroots perspective, we built out a whole team here at the FAW, working with the 850 clubs that we have. And in the new year, we launched Dosbarth, which will be a platform for helping volunteers how to run a football club, how to run a league, how to get more volunteers, how to apply for new pitches and so on. So grassroots football is very broad. Football itself is, I mean, things like facilities, our number one priority is still building grassroots facilities across Cymru. So we've just crossed the £26 million mark in terms of investment over the last 3 years in building pitches. So it's refreshing to see so many new pitches being built. All of that said, we know we still have a long way to go in terms of reaching our full potential. So the Enhancing Lives Through Football is a roadmap for us, basically how we're going to help every community, every village to reach its full potential in football. So while there's a way to go, we know we're on a good track, that's for sure. The numbers are growing really quickly. I mean, there's been independent research this year that shows that the gap between football and other sports is growing because football is just growing so fast, inspired by our national teams, but also being helped and supported by this team of grassroots staff that are out there now, along with the army of volunteers that we have. I don't think you can ever stress enough the thousands and thousands of volunteers out there who are helping their clubs, helping their communities to thrive. We'd be lost without them, so we're eternally grateful to them in building the game.
You mentioned there briefly about the fact that football is officially the largest participation sport in Cymru. So where would you say you are now? You did mention it briefly there in terms of facilities and pitches, but where are the FAW now in terms of meeting that commitment to invest in the 20 million in
Yeah, we're past that. We're past that now. We're actually heading towards 30 million at this stage, which is great, with partners like DCMS, Welsh Government and the local authorities. So the Cymru Football Foundation has been, a huge shot in the arm for Welsh football. If you go back 4 years ago, we didn't have a plan, we didn't have money for grassroots facilities. Now, as I say, we're closing in on £30 million and there's a confidence as a club that if you apply and get your ducks in a row, you're going to get funding. That's crucial. I see lots more all-weather pitches being built, which is really important to us. But I see a lot better grass pitches. For example, we've got a partnership with the Grounds Management Association, which basically are pitch doctors who go out and check the pitch out and give you recommendations how to improve the drainage or the quality of the pitches, which is as important as the all-weather facilities that we need for sure. But also what's important for us is it's done in a safe environment. So recently the FAW got CPSU Level 3, which is independent view on how we approach safeguarding. And like with 120,000 players, we need to make sure that we've got our policies and procedures in place to safeguard people. So reaching that gold standard of safeguarding was really important to us as an association, and one that is important that we continue. We can't get complacent with that. We have to keep getting better and better at safeguarding, not just in the FAW, but across all of our clubs, which is the number one priority for us too.
And you mentioned as also about volunteers, they play such a crucial part in grassroots football. And that's something that has been looked at by the FAW, is launching Dosbarth in 2026. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Certainly. What the FAW has always been good at, I would say, certainly over the last couple of decades, is coach education. Some of the best coaches in the world have come through Cymru to become coaches. We realised we really need to improve on supporting a person how to run their football club at the grassroots level. So what would traditionally happen is a person volunteers for their club, they're handed a copybook or something, here's how you run the club. Whereas, now in 2025, you need to be able to give people an A to Z of how to run your club, and we have all that now. So we've been filming over the year, over 2025, how to run your club, how to build pitches, how to get more volunteers, how to get coach education, or whatever it is in your club, how to build your football club or your league. And in 2026, launching that properly out there and showing people the tools, the frameworks that are available to help you run your club. We're excited by Dosbarth. As I say, it should mirror the success we've had with coach education. This off-pitch education is something we're really excited by.
And one thing in the past the FAW have perhaps been criticised for is not being diverse enough. So what steps have you taken as an organisation to rectify this now?
Yeah, something like we're really proud of. If you go back to 2021, we brought Sustainable Association for the Future, which was 80 governance changes to really improve the association. That's worked really, really well for us as an organisation, but you never stay still. So we've brought loads of new people into the association with different voices, from different backgrounds, with different lenses to help us shape football for the future. So the governance structure of the association has changed radically over the last few years, and this new suite of governance changes, as we implement them, will make us faster, stronger, better.
moving on to the domestic game now, and in 2024 the Cymru Premier strategy was launched, and this year we've seen clubs revealing their own 5-year plans. So what was your highlight among them, and why are they so important for the clubs now to have their own strategies over the next 5 years?
Yeah, again, if you go back a couple of years ago, we didn't have a strategy for the league, for the Cymru Premier Division. We didn't have, I don't believe, sufficient resources for the league. So we set about putting a plan in place for the league first, in the first instance, and then we managed to secure the resources from the likes of UEFA, millions of pounds to go into our Cymru Premier Division, which gave us a roadmap as a league. But each club now in the Cymru Premier has its own plan for the next number of years, and that's important because you don't want to have finger in the air stuff, or we're doing this or that. You want to have a club that's really bought into their own future, that knows what they're doing in terms of player development, their own academy, their facilities, how they reach into their own community and connect with people and build their fan base, for example. So we were delighted to see all the clubs buy into that process. I think there's a togetherness between the FAW and the clubs in terms of what we're trying to build. And of course, 2026, we'll see a rapid expansion of the league. We go from 12 teams to 16 teams. We feel very confident that we can achieve a lot with the Cymru Premier Division in the years that come. And next year we'll also see us bring the Adran Premier Division, the plan for that. And you don't try and do it exactly like you did with the Cymru Premier. It has to be right for the Adran League. So the Adran League we've got huge confidence in. So we're going to, in 26, launch the new plan for the Adran Premier Division as well, with resources, with people that can really help that reach its full potential too.
And one thing that's come up in the strategies is something as well that is a hot topic in football, which is VAR. Of course, that's going to be introduced into the Cymru Premier from next season. Is this a positive step forward? Yeah, look, we're one of the last countries in Europe now to implement a version of VAR. I have to hasten to add, it's not the VAR that we see maybe in the English Premier League, which is lines and semi-automated and that. We will have a light version of VAR, but it's really for clear and obvious stuff. I think it'll really help both the match officials, but also the TV product. More cameras at our matches are a good thing because it gives us more angles of the game. So while also helping the match officials to make the right decisions, it'll help with the TV product, and that can only be a good thing for Welsh football. And given the incredible success of reaching 20,000 women and girls playing football here in Cymru, are you evolving the offering and domestic pathway to those new players as well? Very much so. The women's game is growing so fast, by the way. It's trying to keep up with it. The success of going to Euro 25 was a massive boost for Welsh football, I would say. And even this year, we see a lot of new players coming to the national team that have come through the pathway. Players like Marit Griffiths and Mia Ross and Zimmerman and other players coming through. It's fantastic to see. We've put the standards in place, the opportunity for really good young female talent to reach their full potential. So we've got the pathway now in place, and hopefully we'll reap the benefits in the years to come. Well, as we were touching on the success of the 20,000 players, let's start an international chat then, and beginning with Rhian Wilkinson and of course the history makers of this year. I personally have such incredible memories who've been out there in Switzerland, and I think any of those fans that were out there as well can really say that they were part of something special. How would you personally reflect on that summer?
Yeah, I mean, the build-up to it, obviously, it was fantastic. I mean, the team here do a terrific job in engaging people. If you look at the squad announcement, for example, in Irwidfa, for example, and Rhian, the way she connected with people and the build-up to it, the players, the content around it was fantastic. But then on the playing side, we had, I would say, the biggest year we've ever had in the women's game for lots of reasons, not just the Euros, But we're in Nations League A. You know, you're playing against Italy, you're playing against Sweden, against Denmark. I look at the performance, for example, away in Gothenburg against Sweden. I thought it was one of the great performances I've ever seen in Welsh shirts. Then going to the Euros, what an experience for all of us. For the players, that first day against the Netherlands, when you heard the anthem played. And I still, even though I knew there was 3,000 of the Walgott going out there, it's still when you just see the whole behind the goals covered in bucket hats, and to see the women experience the same as the men have done over the years was just spectacular. I say, to hear the anthem sung like that for the women's national team in Switzerland, fabulous tournament, by the way. You know, they did a great job at UEFA on the tournament, but to see our fans and our players, the way they embraced it was fantastic. So when we launched the 10-year strategy in 2026, an eye is towards the 2035 World Cup, which we'll host hopefully here in Cymru. Now we're going to build over the next decade a side that can really compete at these top tournaments to try and win the thing. I mean, there's no point being there if you're not going to try and win it. We've got a lot of new talent emerging with the women's national team. I mean, for example, Jess Fishlock's last match against Australia, what a career she had, by the way, in a Cymru shirt. You know, against Australia, we could see what athleticism looks like, the quality you need to get to. And I say we're introducing more and more young players into that group. And to finish the season with that wonderful camp against South Korea and beating Switzerland, who's such a fantastic Euros, of course, fills us with hope for 26. And as I say, to see all the quality young players coming through gives us every incentive to go on and get better and better.
It is such an incredibly exciting few years ahead, isn't there? And you did mention them briefly there, but of course we did have to say goodbye to an absolute legend that is Jess Fishlock when she played her final game for Cymru, and perhaps a mark of what she's achieved, you know, seeing that record home attendance for a friendly in that final game for her to say goodbye. How do you even begin to replace someone like Jess?
Well, you don't. It's like when Gareth goes, for example. You can't replace a player like that, but what you can do is put the systems in place and put a wider group of talent together that can replace that somehow. You've seen it, for example, with the men's team. When Garrett went, people said, oh, you know, it's going to be really difficult. Then you see some players step up and you see new players enter the fray and them owning the shirt, as they say. So like Jess, both on and off the pitch, I mean, I've dealt with her a lot off the pitch in terms of equal pay, for example, better conditions and so on for the women's national team. She's played a leading role. Her legacy is not just on the pitch, it's off the pitch too, in the way that she has fought for the women's game. I mean, I saw some footage last year of her playing, you know, I think there was a horse watching the match, watching Wales play at one stage. Now it's full stadiums, now it's Euros, now it's, as you say, a friendly on a Saturday in Cardiff, you know, with over 10,000 people there. And to see Jess, as I say, surrounded by her family and friends and her teammates in her home city, it was a really nice way to finish her career with Cymru. But I mean, her record speaks for itself. I mean, she's known all over the world. You know, when you travel around the world, people know Jess, and she's done so much for the game here that it's very hard to replicate that, nor do we want to. You know, she's done her stuff. And I think she'll still have a big role in Welsh football. I'm sure she'll still be on the phone or calling in to give us her views. And who knows what the future could bring. I hope she gets more involved in Welsh football, depending on how her career pans out. She's on the coaching path now, so who knows? You never know, you know, how we'll meet again. But she's certainly given the best of herself in the Cymru shirt.
She has indeed, and what an incredible legacy she has left. And moving on to the men's side of things, how do you reflect on Craig's achievements with the team this year?
Yeah, look, I mean, getting to the playoffs was really good, and the way that we finished off the campaign with that spectacular performance, I would say, against North Macedonia. I remember meeting Craig when, you know, we were talking about him coming in to be the Cymru manager, and how he described how we would play against North Macedonia. That was it. That was how he described how we would play. It was a lot of movements, you know, high press. When I first met Craig, I was struck by his football intellect. For me, I think we've brought in a genius here, a football genius, who understands the game in a way that I've never heard someone speak about the game. It's his first job as a manager, and you can see like he's going to go on and manage a top club after us. Hopefully stays with us until Euro 28 and creates a legacy that he talks about quite a lot. He's got a lot of support behind him. He's got a great backroom team, which he's really happy with. He's got a great group. And again, a lot of young players emerging. You've seen the likes of Ronan, Dylan Lawler coming through, and many other players. So you've got a lot of good young talent coming through with the men's team as well. So really exciting times ahead. Hopefully we can get to this World Cup next summer. And when we do get to the World Cup, show what he's built as a side, which I know he'll be determined to do.
And speaking of the World Cup, I know as fans we can all dream of it, but we do have 2 games still to get through. So how does the association balance planning for March, but also then planning for the summer ahead at the same time?
It's a real challenge because, if we qualify, we'll qualify quite late. Again, difficult for everybody because you've got to have your base camps, you've got to have your logistics in place, which we must have. So we're well advanced in our planning for being there. We're in a good place in terms of logistics and things like that. So should we qualify in March, then we'll be ready to go, and hopefully we can help supporters get themselves sorted out, with tickets and hotels and different things. But it's a challenge. Obviously we'd love to have qualified directly. We didn't. We got to the playoff place. So now we've got to do it the hard way, but we're used to doing it the hard way. So it's no shock to us that we're going to have to do it that way again. It's just a shame it's so late, as I say, particularly for supporters, to get yourself sorted out to get there, because when we go to tournaments, Iwalgach are normally a feature of the tournament, like they were with the women in Euro 2025, like they were in Qatar at the World Cup and before that. But it's tough with that late qualification. So look, let's get qualified, and then let's, in the background, we're doing our work to make sure that it'll be seamless.
Well, there's definitely so much for the association to look forward to in terms of the potential World Cup, but it's also an incredibly special year for the FAW, celebrating 150 years. Can you let us know if there are any plans to perhaps mark the occasion?
Yeah, our 150 years is a time to celebrate a rich history. In February, for example, we've got the IFAB here, which is the laws of the game. So that will be decided here in Hensel, the laws of the game for the whole world for 211 countries. So that's a feature for us, having the IFAB here in February. We're looking at having a game to mark the occasion. Because of the World Cup complications and not being qualified yet, we still haven't made decisions around the June friendlies, for example. So obviously we've got Nations League A matches coming up, the draws in February, for some big games in September, October, November. So we've got to decide when we really officially mark the 150th year. But we're well advanced, I would say, in our planning. We're looking at celebrating maybe the 2016 team, for example, which will be 10 years on, and combining that with the 150 years. So we're looking at some occasion around that too. There's a lot of work on in the background, so hopefully we can reveal that early in 2026. Obviously we're in the Wednesday 1876, which marks the association being formed. So we're looking at doing something in Wrexham, of course. It'll see the museum open, which will celebrate the history of Welsh football as well. So there'll be plenty of different events, and we look forward to communicating that early in the new year.
Also, the Under-19s tournament is going to be incredible as well. The likes of Michael Owen, Mbappe, Fernando Torres, some of the list of players that have played in these finals over the year, just remarkable names in football. How can people support that tournament that's going to take place in North Wales? Yeah,
in June, as you say, we'll have the top 7 European countries along with ourselves playing against each other across a number of venues. So the legacy for that us is really important of that, because North Wales needs better facilities, like all of the country does. We've managed to invest about £4 million in facilities across North Wales, from Carnarvon right across to Wrexham. Denby's new facility is absolutely fantastic as well. So getting behind the team, we want full houses for that. So we'll be marketing and communicating very strongly in the new year about how to get your tickets and how to get behind the team for that. So that'll be a very special summer for us. It'll coincide with maybe a World Cup as well. So that'll be quite interesting to be at the World Cup in Canada and America and Mexico, and also having the Under-19 tournament. But this tournament will be special. We had some warm-up games earlier in 2025, really good attendances. People want to get behind our young team. This is a really good group, Under-19s, going into this European Championship. So we're excited about it, not just for the football, but the facilities that have been built around it. And it'll leave a legacy for many years to come in North Wales. So we look forward to seeing everybody in June up in North Wales supporting Cymru.
Most definitely. And Noel, just to finish off our chat, if I was going to be your fairy godmother in football and to grant you one wish for 2026, what would that be?
Well, it's very hard to say one. The women's national team go in now to a Nations League B campaign. We really want to see them promoted back to A. We learned so much in A in 2025, playing against great sides. I really hope that we can get promoted back up to A with the women's national team for sure. And of course, is to get to the World Cup finals with the men. So if you were a fairy godmother, if we can get promoted to Nations League A with the women's national team, if we can get to the World Cup with the men's national team, and then I'm going to add a third, if you don't mind, which is the domestic game is so important to us, to see the game flourish here, not just at Cymru Premier, Adran Premier League, but right across our 850 clubs. That's what drives us all the time here. So we've got the resources in place, we've got really good people here at the FAW, and as I say, our volunteer army across the country. If them three things come together, the women's national team, the men's national team, and all of the grassroots game that sits below that, getting that right, that would be a fantastic 26 for Welsh football.
Most definitely. Hopefully those wishes do come true. We're diolch yn fawr iawn I chdi, Noel. Nadolig llawen. It's been fantastic to have a look back at what's been an incredible year, and I for one am very much excited for 2026.
Welcome back.